And as more news comes out, it's already been verified. Remember when you heard just some days ago, Zelensky was asking the United States to drop a nuclear bomb on Moscow, and of course Moscow responded and said, "See, look at what this guy. What the propensity of these people are." And then Zelensky came back and said, "Oh no, I didn't say that. I just said some kicks. I meant sanctions." But then you ask anybody that speaks Ukrainian, and they will say he definitely said nuclear bombs. He said he wants a nuclear strike. And well, what's strange? You see all this escalation about nuclear this and nuclear that, and of course it's all from the West side. Russia has only been saying that you just keep pushing that, and you're going to get that response from us, but we're not going to use them first. Attack on Russia before Russia's going to be using that, and they will not initiate any nuclear attack. But you have to look at this in a little bit of context. This is the 60th anniversary this month, the 60th anniversary of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So it was 60 years ago this month when they were going through the Cuban Missile Crisis. So that's kind of noteworthy right there. But after this response from Russia, Russia was responding against this attack by Ukraine on that bridge, which, Ukraine has admitted that they did that attack. It was this, SBU, the secret services of Ukraine that did that, and that's one reason why I guess they bombed, one of the headquarters of the SBU just yesterday. But I guess, right after that, it was in the morning, I guess, the one they had just a few hours of bombing, and right after that, Zelensky supposedly was on the phone to Joe Biden and to many other world leaders, and begging, of course, for more weapons and to escalate this, and looks like the USA is going to accommodate them, sending more weapons. And Poland is now looking very badly to get in. Poland has a lot of soldiers already in Ukraine, and I mentioned that in one video a few days ago, and I don't know if anybody else has been. I'm getting most of this information off the internet anyway from reliable sources, but anyway, it's a known fact that they have a lot of soldiers. The US has soldiers, a lot of soldiers, not as much as Poland. And the UK has soldiers, and of course now they're even posting photos with, I guess, these little bands of French, British, and United States soldiers all together with their guns, and bragging that they're in Ukraine and causing a lot of trouble. So, but it actually was a little attack. This was a little attack in Ukraine, and everybody's talking about how devastating it is, and the official word from the Ukrainian government is that 11 civilians died. Only 11. And I'm not saying that's a great thing or a bad thing. It's great that it wasn't more, but you have to put this in perspective, and you have to look at what Ukraine has been doing to the Donbass for 8 years. They've been bombing it constantly. It's not just for a few hours. They've been bombing it, for years. Remember Petro Poroshenko, the president right before Zelensky, came out and was gleeful that he said the children of the Donbass will be hiding in their basements at the time when all the Ukrainian children will be going to school. So in other words, they won't get an education. And of course, one thing that really drove me against Ukraine is when you saw these attacks at that time, which were terrorist attacks, no doubt about it, where they were bombing school buses filled with children and seeing little body parts and things like that laying around, bombing children. And that's one of the main targets were children. The Ukrainians, the West Ukraine, purposefully target children, because they don't want them to be growing up. They, as I've been saying, and that's been alluded to by other people, this is ethnic cleansing. They wanted to clear that entire land so they can send Ukrainians in. Adolf Hitler, believe it or not, had this. That's one of the only true, real Nazi type things that they know for sure about Adolf Hitler, is he was seeking Lebensraum, living space for the master race. And of course, the Ukrainians are identical. And the Germans, even in World War II, said, they were appalled at the brutality of the Ukrainian Nazis. And I feel sorry for many of those Ukrainians that have to live under these people, and of course you're under constant threat. It's like what George Bush, his own little Nazi attitude said. if you're not with us, you're against us. And if you saw any of this film footage of these areas that Russia, evacuated in these past days, and showing all the dead bodies, and hearing all these stories of people that actually escaped when they just take 100 people, all these soldiers with these guns, and they take 20. They just take any 20 and then shoot them all in the head, with no evidence of any crimes or anything. Terrible, terrible stuff. But that's what's going on right now. And I might even have to delete that, because you're going to have these pro-Ukrainian people that say that all these Western Ukrainian Nazis, they're good Nazis, they're angels, and they come and put their arms around you and kiss you. They don't kill you. So that's what a lot of them say. So I might have to delete that. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it on. See, I'll get deleted. No surprise on that, I guess, if that happens. So you have to watch and subscribe, because maybe I won't be around much longer. You never know. At least not on the internet. But one thing that's really horrible, that's really going on right now, and this is something that's creeping up on society, is this passive attitude towards this ideology that is being spread, not just in Europe, probably into the United States as well, that to side with the Nazis, something that the world had to join together and defeat in World War II, and now it's the accepted ideology. You have this in these Baltic republics and Poland, and not just in Ukraine. And if you study the history and what this was all about, at this Bandera and Galicia, and that attitude was rampant back then. And the sad part is that this, even though Nazism was practically, or maybe entirely, you could say, eradicated from Germany, they let it live in Ukraine. And of course it was still going after war. There was still Nazi attacks on Belarusians and Poles and all that into the 1950s. And I hate to say this, because I'm actually a U.S. citizen, but the United States CIA was using Bandera and his people. And I'm forgetting my history. It might have been that they didn't use Bandera, but they used offshoots of Bandera's group to conduct terrorist attacks, assassinations, and just to gather information, anything, against the Soviet Union at that time. So so that ideology was alive at that time, and around 1914, obviously, it's like keeping a fire going, a tiny little fire, and then all of a sudden start throwing the big logs on the fire. And that was 2014, and the massacre of Russians in Odessa, and now, during that time they were also spreading that in the Baltic republics. And so these are, to a certain extent, Nazi people too. They're a little bit more peaceful, but they have that ideology, and it's going to be very easy to ignite them into this hatred of Russians and start killing Russians. So this is some really bad stuff. So this, I don't know, what else more am I going to say about this? But even this is a little bit like Operation Sycamore. If you remember Operation Sycamore, that is when the United States was joining forces with Saudi Arabia to cause this trouble in Syria. And luckily that's over, and now you have a new leader of Saudi Arabia, and whatever you might think, I don't know. I'm not privy to, I'm not an investigator. I don't know what the real truth is, what's going on there. But anyway, that Operation Sycamore has apparently come to an end. But the United States, they say they own 1/3 of Syria. It's not that they that they're just there in a little area. They said 1/3 of Syria, and that they own it. And they said the rest of Syria is rubble, and they're going to keep it that way. So this is just some other type of news that you're probably not seeing in any mainstream or even any independent news media anywhere. But they're still very much in control of a huge section of Syria, there to pump out the oil and to, do tremendous damage to Syria, and to keep it down, obviously. And Russia has got their hands tied right now. And I was believing that they're going to, pin Ukraine down and then start going after Syria to get more oil there, because a lot of the goal was to get the oil reserves and gas reserves from the Golan Heights and to pump that through Syria into Turkey and Europe, and to get a lot of money, and that is through a company called Genie Petroleum, and that's the whole thing. That's who's on the board of that. Dick Cheney, former Vice President of the United States, Rupert Murdoch, and Jacob Rothschild's. They're on the board of Genie Petroleum. So that's something you can look up. That's very, very fascinating too. But anyhow, this stuff in Ukraine, it's like the United States is on the other side of the world, but they'll risk global nuclear Armageddon, to save Ukraine. Yet they don't put any money in the United States, really, letting the infrastructure and the society crumble. And watch everybody freeze in Europe. But no, that money has to go to Ukraine. Strangely enough, even Europe is sending all their money to Ukraine. It's very strange. But they're puppet states, and they know they're puppet states of the United States. And the United States is nothing but the lieutenant of the World Economic Forum. So, this is how the world is working. Very, very shocking stuff. And if I could find a way to tell anybody out there, even people that may not like what I have to say, to save yourself, to protect yourself, it's like, what do you don't have a piece of land out somewhere, have a cabin with a wood stove, with a lot of forest around you, and a way to make your own food or something, what else? I don't know what else you're going to do. So maybe the preppers have it right, So, and I think a lot of them are moving to the forefront right now, and people are starting to say, hey, yeah, you knew what was going on. They're very fascinating stuff anyway. I saw an interview with Jeffrey Sachs. It was the people on the Gray Zone. It's also a very good site. I don't watch it as much as I should. I watch the Duran. You get some great information there, but on the Gray Zone, and I believe that's where I saw this clip where they showed Lindsey Graham. It was, I think, like 4 months after this special military operation started, and he was saying how happy he was that Ukraine is going to fight to the last Ukrainian. So it's like, I wonder if it was his voters in his district, that he would be very happy to see them fighting to the last Lindsey Graham voter. So, you hold that kind of sort of thing in perspective, to find out, because I'm sure most of these people, they don't care who dies. And of course, they love it far, far more when they see Russians and Ukrainians die. There's nothing better for them than that. Obviously, they don't like Ukrainians either, but Ukrainians are just being willful tools, unfortunately. And that's these leaders. And a lot of people are saying that the leaders of Ukraine aren't even Ukrainian. So I think there's 4 of them. Zelensky is just one, and I don't even know the names of these other, jokers, which are probably Nazis anyway. But not even Ukrainian. It's sort of like the Soviet Union. Most of the leaders of Soviet Union were not really Russian. I think Lenin was like 1/3 Russian. I can't remember who was. I think Joseph Stalin was from Georgia, and Brezhnev and Khrushchev were both Ukrainian, and some of the other ones I know were half Ukrainian. So if, like I said, Ukraine complains that Russia and the Soviet Union is the cause of all their problems, it's actually the Soviet Union was run by Ukrainians for the most part. So, and that's probably why virtually most of the money always went to Ukraine. The industry, and they gave huge tracts of land, the Donbass, which was the mining section, and they gave the Crimea. It was Khrushchev in 1954. Lenin, of course, gave the Donbass to Ukraine, and I think it was also Stalin. He gave part of Romania to Ukraine, which is that area right by Transnistria, and I think they also took off part of Hungary and they gave that to Ukraine, and the Galicia that was part of Poland, they gave that to Ukraine. So I don't know. Ukraine is probably a very small country like Liechtenstein or something in truth, and most all of the territory was taken away from other countries. So that's true. But and I mentioned something about Belarus yesterday, and somebody was angry about that, and it was not meant to compare it that Belarus became a country in the same way as Ukraine, because it's not true. Belarus became a country in, I think it was 1939, actually, even though it was still part of the Soviet Union, which meant that a country was the Soviet Union, just like the United States was. That was the Soviet Union. But there is, of course, a Belarusian people, and I think, they might have been located in different parts of this area now that's called Belarus as well. But it came about through agreements and negotiations, and it was fine. But now, of course, Poland wants the Grodno and Brest regions they want to take it back, and Poland also wants Galicia, which is part of Ukraine right now, but they keep that a secret. So this Duda, leader of Poland, I think that's probably the one reason why he hates Lukashenko so much, is because he wants to take a major portion of Belarus. So, but if you look at any country, their borders are fluid. It's like even Galicia itself, that had different borders at different times. At one point, Brest was even, I believe, part of Galicia. So, and let me think of some other countries that's, of course, there's the United States, and that was made up of colonies from France and Spain and England, and then of course they took a lot of most of the territory was from Native Americans, and even on the west coast, Washington State and Oregon, that belonged to Great Britain. And then Alaska, that belonged to Russia. And by the way, I don't think they ever paid Russia for that money, for that land. So they basically stole that from Russia. But Russia, they haven't been going and say, well, we want Alaska back because, you didn't pay for it. So, you can have a border dispute. Anyway, you can even say, I'll tell you what, and the honest truth is, Germany has a claim to Poland, for the entire country of Poland. I believe it was when the King of Poland died, his wife was the sister of Frederick the Great, and technically speaking, I think she inherited Poland, and Germany could say, okay, now that's ours. And what was the reason for the Franco-Prussian War? Is the truth really is that Germany, or at that time, what was that? It was still Germany. See, it was a time when Germany became a country, also around 1870 and 1871. The Franco-Prussian War. Maybe that's why they call it Prussian and not the Franco-German War. Is that somebody, I believe, died, and Germany had the right to take the country of Spain, and France didn't want that, so they declared war on Germany. It wasn't Germany declaring war on Spain and saying, France just freaked out, and they were the world power at the time, France, but Germany defeated them in less than a year, which made everybody go, whoa, what is this country called Germany? Which was more or less the Prussians. So just a little bit of history lesson there if it interests you. But anyway, Poland built a wall, and they just completed this wall some days ago, a wall between Belarus and Poland, and they were celebrating. But actually, Belarus has more reason to celebrate. Especially once maybe they're going to call it a fence, like a fence can be moved, like what they said in Israel. But I don't know. But anyway, there's a wall now between Belarus and Poland. But it actually helps Belarus for when they want to attack, when Poland would want to come back and say, well, now we're going to take our portion of Belarus. At least there should be some indication of where they're going to attack. They'd either have to go through designated points in that, or breaks in the wall, or they have to break the wall first. So Belarus should celebrate the wall. The Great Wall of Poland. The information, I have to say, is not too pleasing to certain social media groups, I guess. But I've heard other people say a lot of other things, and they get away with it, so maybe I can get away with it as well, without getting any sort of strikes or whatever. Whatever that is, why they delete you or censor you or something like that. I at this moment, I don't, I personally, I've heard a lot of things on Google that obviously they allow, so I don't think that Google is such a bad sponsor of freedom of speech. So I don't really know what the things they would censor me for, what is allowed and what's not allowed. Generally maybe it's if it's not of their opinion. If they don't like what I have to say, they'll censor me. Maybe they have the right. I guess it's a private company. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure what all this censorship is about. But anyway, I just express my opinion. A lot of this is just for, you know, for my own records. You know, maybe in the future when things happen, I can mention some of the experience I had. I used to work, like I tell you, in a military intelligence battalion in the 8th Infantry Division. So, you know, when pertinent things comes up, I'll maybe add my commentary. So until next time, but thanks for viewing. And before working in a military intelligence battalion, I also worked for the commanding general of U.S. forces in Germany, and I got to meet a lot of, you know, fun people. I liked Ronald Reagan. I met Ronald Reagan, and Colin Powell was a very decent guy as well. You know, unfortunately, he sort of ruined his reputation there before the United Nations. You know, coming up with these mobile chemical biological labs and all that sort of a thing. But you know, there's these little cabals, and you know, these people all play along with it. But there was other people I liked too. There was the general that was in charge of nuclear weapons in Germany. He was actually a very decent guy. And there's some people I met of a very high intelligence services. It was, you know, wasn't the CIA. Of course, FBI is not available over there. It wasn't a military thing, but it was, I don't even know, you know, there was like, what is there, 17 military, not military, 17 intelligence agencies in the United States. I'm not sure which one that guy was from, but they were very nice people. The whole entourage of them were very nice, and you know, I met a lot of other people. There was one guy, he became the Assistant Secretary of State, was Richard Armitage. You know, I liked him too. You know, he talked like this. He was a former Navy SEAL, and you know, but that I don't. You know, I can mention his name. I won't mention the name of the general that was in charge of the nuclear forces and things like that. You know, very nice people, and you know, maybe they had to do their job. At least they felt they did, and it's not that they did anything nasty. I wasn't in at a time when we were making these terrible wars. Well, I was later in during the Desert Storm years, but I wasn't connected with any of these elitist, you know, military people or civilians at that time. And you know, of course, I met 2 German presidents as well. Anyway, and I lots of other things. I don't want to sit here and tell you all these things. You probably wouldn't believe me anyway. But let's not forget, Poland has just ordered all Polish citizens to leave Belarus. And what that portends, who knows? It's not like Belarus ever goes after any foreign people. It's not like they're going to put them in a concentration camp. As a matter of fact, Belarus has visa-free travel for all the Baltic states and Polish people to come and visit Belarus. But it's not reciprocated. Poland and the Baltic states do not let Belarusian people go freely across their borders. So it's you know, in truth, if you, like I think I was, did I say this? Like in truth, Lukashenko is like a humanitarian. He's anti-war. There's never been any wars, and like when Jesus says, "Know them by their fruits," and he can talk in any way that you don't like it. You know, people might use this 2020 revolt, but you know, when you're out to overthrow the government, you know, that's kind of a little bit shaky there. They say he cheated on the election, but I'll tell you what, most people that I talk to, they like Lukashenko. So, what did you think they voted for a housewife that has absolutely zero experience in politics whatsoever, in government? You know, she might be a great person. I have nothing against her. You know, but when you know, just think if the jackals from the United States and European Union get a hold of her, you know, Belarus would be gone. So, and I think most people here are not that stupid, and they know that. So why would they vote for somebody that's somebody like that? So anyway, that's enough. And I guess I'll end with that. And anyway, thanks for joining in, and hopefully Well, I won't be seeing you, but hopefully you'll be seeing me. Subscribe. You'll see me later. Thanks. Bye.